So first of all, and this might be a bit controversial. So as I said, here we go. There are two ways I want to answer that. First of all, I don't believe there is such a thing as a balance in the sense of maintaining a true balance like that. What for me, I think, first of all, you need to understand something. You will struggle. You will struggle with trying to achieve this thing. Make no mistake about that. It's not going to happen automatically. It's not going to be handed to you. You need to be comfortable with trade-offs. You need to be comfortable with what am I giving up for what am I getting? That is something you will not expect to find that, oh, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this, and it's going to come neatly arranged on a plate. That is never going to happen. So you need to be comfortable with making those trade-offs. And in making those trade-offs in life, one thing that you must absolutely do is to reflect on what actually matters to you. And you can even see that maybe that has come out as we have gone through this conversation today. For us as Muslims, obviously, that takes a big place, if not almost the entire plate in our whole makeup, in our whole mix. You will have to find that balance. I mean, you'll have to reflect on that. What is it that actually matters to you? Okay, that's number one for me. You need to reflect on that. And then also understanding that there is never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be to achieve the things you want to achieve in life. You want to be a good family member. You want to be a good father, a good mother. You want to be a thorough professional. You want to also, while you're at it, become a hafiz of the Quran, or like become a muhaddith in your spare time or whatever. There's never going to be a perfect time. So the issue of, oh, I'm waiting until this happens or whatever. So for me, I would reframe that point to say, have you prioritized what matters to you in your life? And what are you doing about it thereafter? In prioritizing what matters to you in your life, for me, it is not what people say matters. You have to look within yourself, because a lot of what causes burnout, a lot of what causes sort of disenchantment and what have you, is when you're living for other people's approval, for what other people think is important, whether it is in your culture, whether it is in your immediate family circumstance, whatever it is. When you're living for what other people say, even like Azira has alluded to, what your firm thinks culturally matters, like the whole pub culture and what have you, then you have a problem, because you're going to be in a constant state of tension. But when you've sat down and reflected, and you saw it in a lot of what Aziza said earlier on, when you've sat down and reflected and said, my Islam is important, is more important to me than the pop culture. Now, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to then ensure that in other aspects, you're so blazingly amazing that people actually think it's ridiculous for me to think this person should be part of this our little nonsense that we're doing and what have you. So for me, that is extremely critical. Now, in reflecting, apart from understanding, apart from thinking very deeply about what matters to you as a person, there are a few other things for me that's also very, very important. One is, it's helpful to get the perspective of very thoughtful people. People provide, when you engage with people who are very thoughtful, who are wise, and you absolutely need to cultivate those types of relationships of people who are really wise, who are thoughtful, that you can talk to, that can serve as advisors, as sounding boards for you. And you say, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm thinking. And they're able to help you provide perspective. I have in my life about 5-6 people that are my go-to people. Whenever I'm in this kind of situation, that I call and I ask, this is what I'm currently going through. This is what even as I'm talking to you right now, at this stage in my career, I still have people that I pick up the phone and I talk to them, I give them the background and I say, you know me, you know my journey, what do you think? How do you think about this kind of thing? And you get that perspective. It's also very important for you to check in with your stakeholders. Like if you're married, obviously, you have to check in with your spouse. You have to also understand, even if you're a parent, understand what your children would like from you, so that you're not just running and doing your own thing and say, oh, I'm providing for them after all, and what have you. Do they just want to spend a bit of time with you? You have to reflect and think, is this more important than this additional business trip? Can I structure it in another way? Can somebody else go? Does it make more sense for me to attend my kids' sort of like poetry recital or whatever, as opposed to going on yet another of these business trips? Or you know what? Is there a way we can do it? Is there a way we can accommodate it? So just bringing your stakeholders onto it. And then finally, for me, along this line, is when you have recognized these are my priorities, it's also learning to be comfortable with turning down things, being able to say, yeah, this sounds great, but I won't be able to do this. It just does not feature on my list of priorities right now. Even if it features on somebody else's, it's just not high priority for me at this point. And then just to take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. That was really insightful. I think, as he was talking, I was thinking a couple of things. At various stages of our lives, we have different demands on our time. But there's always a juggle, whether you happen at some stages of my life, I haven't had a family, and then later there was still, even at that time, there were still demands of my time, and I still had to juggle, and there were still times when I was off balance and I wasn't looking after my health, or maybe my house was not in order because I was overworking, there was still, and I had to say, okay, right, I can't do the house stuff myself. I'm just too busy. Maybe I need to pay somebody to do it. You start to bring in the support systems you need at various stages. But I think it's important, like Kamara said, to identify, there's always going to be too many things to do. So there's two things I want to say. You do have to identify what's important to you in life and just prioritize it, and be a simple person. Just think, well, I like to do this. I like to spend time with these kinds of people. I like to do this in my spare time. All this other stuff doesn't really interest me. And be courageous enough to say, oh, well, sorry, I'm not coming. It's not really my thing. And after a while, people will stop asking you to go to those things because, they know that this person is going to go, But there's, value your time and say, look, my time is precious. Life is short. I want to spend it with my kids. I want to spend it with my husband. I have my extracurricular projects and NGO that I'm running. I have my work. I've got enough on my plate. I don't need to be going, well, what am I going there for, really? And then I'll come back and I'll be tired. So you really have to be a little bit, you have to be quite strict with your time and really value your time and say, is this something really worthwhile for me? Is this something that means something to me? The other thing is, I remember when I was in my 20s, I used to go to some of the Utrecht classes in London after work. And somebody asked this question, and all of us were in our 20s. A lot of us weren't married, a lot of us didn't have kids, but we were still juggling with London life, working with an NGO, working in the city, maybe helping extended family members who were staying with us. So we still had demands on our time. And someone asked this question, and he said, and I'll never forget what he said, don't be greedy, That was Sheikh Haitham to me. He said, don't be greedy. And in the same way that you can be trying to eat too much food, you can also be trying to do too much. And I thought that the visual nature of what he said really made me think, gosh, that's really true. So just be a bit careful in the same way as when you're putting things on your plate, you're like, do I really need that? And my stomach is already full. With activities as well, be that conscious, make your life a bit lean, just, do I really need, so that really helped me because there was so much interesting things going on. I wanted to be involved in so many things. There were so many different, all worthwhile actually, and all positive, but it's not possible. It wasn't possible, and you're getting burnt out. You're doing, you're not being so present. So I just thought, actually, let me just really keep it simple. Let me minimize it so I can just be relaxed and say, okay, I do this. I spend time with my daughter, with my husband. I do my work. I do my NGO. I do my exercise. I have my spirituality. Everything I really want to do, and a lot of things within that also recharge batteries. And the other thing is the other thing I think is really important is who you spend time with, like your spare time, the kind of company. Kamara was mentioning people he has who give him positive feedback. People who give you positive feedback, people who are positive, people who are not always whining, complaining, or being negative or toxic, who drain you, because sometimes you find that in life, you actually can get a lot of things done if you have a lot of energy. In an hour, you can just be like, boom, 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 emails, this, that. I said I was going to tidy up, I was going to cook, and I did this, and we still have time to go for a nice walk. You have energy. And there's barakah in your time. There's also a thing of Allah, I always pray, put barakah in my time. And you'll find out, wow, there's some days where you can't do anything. You cannot do anything. You can't even send an email. You can't even make a phone call. You're completely exhausted, So there's praying for barakah in your time, making sure you're around good company, and being very focused with what you do and what you do, what it means for you in the big picture thing, in terms of as a Muslim and your roles and responsibilities, your duties and your ahira. What I'm doing, how does that fit in? And I think that's really helpful. That's really helped me, definitely. Yeah. And putting structures in place. And I also believe in very scientific and pragmatic. I have this to do, this to do, I have my house chores, I have my work. Okay, is there anything I can delegate? Delegate what you can, you know, and then do the things that you really need to do or you really want to do. You think, oh, I need to spend that time with my child. But things like house chores and errands, then I train my staff now. Initially, it was tough as an entrepreneur because I had to do a lot myself. And I thought, you know, I really need to train my staff so I can have a more just delegate and supervise. And it's great for your staff because, of course, they're learning and then you're freed up to do more strategic thinking. It does take time, but it's really worth, you know, training your staff, people, different areas of your life so you can delegate a lot more and then free up your time. Yeah.
Thank you.